Yeah. And so they decided to use the library. Some of the area. To our yes, we're good.
Good afternoon and welcome to the City of Helena City Commission Administrative Meeting, March 20th, 2024. The time is 4:10 p.m. This meeting is called to order. Madam Clerk.
City Attorney Doctor.
Here.
City Manager Burton.
Here.
Commissioner Dean.
Here.
Commissioner Logan.
Here.
Commissioner Reed.
Here.
Commissioner Shirtliff.
Here.
Mayor Collins.
Here. Commissioners, comments, questions? Board appointments. I am recommending the following board appointments. Appointment of Nathan Estruata to a first term on the Citizen Conservation Board. Term will expire February 28th, 2027. Metro Region Opiates Abatement Review Committee. Appointment of James Petrovich to the Metro Region Opiates Abatement Review Committee. This term is non-expiring. Comments and questions from the commission? Any public comments on this? Recommendations from Helena Citizens Council, Representative Pat Beek, you have the floor.
Mayor, I don't see Patricia Bick on the line.
Please.
Hi, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. Our next meeting is next Wednesday. I believe that's the 27th. You're all invited to attend if you'd like. We're going to hear from the police chief and fire chief regarding the levies, and we'll answer any, or we'll ask questions and listen to their presentation. So that's all I have.
Thank you.
Thank you.
City manager report.
Mayor, I believe Renee Bauer is here to give the reports.
Okay,
Yeah.
you have the floor.
On family problems.
Commissioners, thank you for having me. Update on our new shelter. It's very exciting. We will anticipate breaking ground in approximately 45 days. We still have to go through the permitting process. We have visited with those offices and know what kind of little tweaks and glitches that we had in our original plans to amend. Still looking at a 14-room shelter on the Cook Street property. In order to do that, we will have to demolish part of the existing building. It does not have a structural foundation that is solid enough to build up from. We need to have 2 stories. It's a very narrow lot, pretty tight. We think that we can make it work in a good way for our needs.
Thank you.
We'd love to address any questions if you have any.
You bet. Commissioner Reed.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I think this question might be for the city manager, but based on your description and what I've seen in the paper, it is substantially different than the proposal we initially received. So are we going to receive additional information about what the project has become since the original proposal was submitted?
If I may, Mayor,
Please.
I'd like to turn that over to Ms. Silkins.
Sure, Mr. Mayor, Commissioner Reed. We're in the process right now of drafting an agreement, as we have with all of our recipients of the community aid grants. We did request that Family Promise provide a new application that had the updated information. That information and that scope of work is going to be included in that agreement, which will then go in front of the commission for consideration, as we have with our the other agreements.
Thank you. You done?
I am done. Thank you, Mayor.
Thank you. City County Board of Health update. Their Health Officer Neiman, you have the floor.
Good afternoon, Mayor Collins and Commissioners. Thanks again for having me for a brief update. In your written report, there are several items for update, including opioid prevention, some behavioral health systems work, as well as community health assessment and the Invisible Shield, which is a documentary that's coming out. Rather than going through the written report, I just have a couple of things that I'd like to say specific to two of the items. So the community health assessment, this is the year that we will do a new updated community health assessment. We do this every 3 years, and we do it in partnership with other agencies in the community, including St. Peter's Health, Pureview Health Center, United Way of the Lewis and Clark area, and Rocky Mountain Development Council. It's a partnership to put out, collect and put out the most current data about the health of our community. We are doing 2 new things this year that we have not done in the past. The first is a door-to-door survey. So in the past, we've done the hospital has commissioned a telephone survey, and this time around, we've decided to do door-to-door. So at the end of June 25th, we will have volunteers that will go both within the city limits as well as throughout the county, asking residents of our community to share their perspectives on health, what their health needs are, and all of that information that we collect at the through the door-to-door survey will be included in the full comprehensive report that will be published at the end of the year. So by December, there'll be a fresh new data report on the health status of our county. The other thing that we're doing that's different than we've done in the past is including our neighboring counties. So it'll be a 5-county report to 5-county survey. We'll be including Jefferson, Broadwater, Marr, and Powell counties. So it will reach our neighboring counties as well, which will actually give us a better look and a much more comprehensive understanding of the health of our area. So it'll be more of a regional look. We know that we share residents between county lines. So we'll be looking at the health status over those county lines as well. So we'll be giving the community a heads up that this is coming through lots of marketing. And then we're also recruiting volunteers. So if anyone is interested in joining us at a door-to-door survey, there'll be opportunities to submit an application and be one of our volunteers. Lots of training will go with that, of course, and we'll administer at the end of June. Any questions on our community health assessment?
Mr. Mayor.
Yeah, go ahead, Commissioner Dean.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Brenda, thanks so much for that presentation. I'm excited that we're going to include the entire area. Are we going to be able to differentiate the data from county to county in addition to seeing the overall picture?
And Mr. Mayor and Commissioner Dean, yes, absolutely. The report will be it will be segregated by county so that we can see not only the bigger picture, but those counties will be differentiated so that you can see that. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yes, great question.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, Joanna, for this. How do you select the people whose doors you'll knock on? What's that selection process look like?
Yeah, Mr. Mayor and Commissioner Shurtleff, it's a scientific methodology that comes from the Centers for Disease Control and Prevention. So the methodology essentially breaks our county into census tracts, and then within the census tract, there's a methodology to go every 7th house, for example, and collect data in that way. And it's done consistently throughout the entire county so that the data can then be compared correctly. So I'm relying on the CDC scientists to feed us that methodology, and then we'll follow their direction.
Just one follow-up, Mr. Mayor. Thank you. In terms of volunteers, how many do you estimate that you'll need?
Sure, Mr. Mayor and Commissioner Shurtleff, we will need 60 volunteers because volunteers will go out in pairs for safety. we've reached out to, speaking of safety, we have reached out to City Police Department, and they've given some really great advice. So our volunteers will be in safety vests with badges, identification badges, so that they can be easily identifiable.
That's 60 for all counties or just Lewis and Clark?
60 for Lewis and Clark. Yes, if you're interested in helping in other counties, yeah, Lewis and Clark will need 60 volunteers specific for Lewis and Clark.
Any other comments or questions for Officer Newman? Do you have any online questions?
I have no public comment.
Okay.
And Mr. Mayor, the only other thing I wanted to bring to your attention is that the Invisible Shield documentary, which will air on PBS here next week, the 26th. We are working to have a public viewing or a public showing of that this coming fall. So what we're hoping to do is work with the Myrna Loy, schedule 4 dates in the fall, and view the documentary and have panel discussions with the community. So something to look forward to. But in the meantime, it will start airing on the 26th, and you're welcome to watch it on PBS.
Thank you.
And that's all I had for you, sir, unless there are questions.
Any comments or questions? Thank you, Health Officer Newman.
Thank you.
Lindale Turner mural presentation. Community Facility Manager. Thanks. Manager Johnston, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mayor Collins. Hey, good afternoon, commissions. I am here for round 2 of the Lindale Tunnel mural. We're gonna get it pulled up here in 1 second. All right, there we go. Okay, when we met last time, I covered the requirements for the submissions and the process used for scoring submissions for the Lindale Tunnel mural. Today, I want to further elaborate on that process. Sorry. When we look at art submissions, we use a scoring method to narrow the discussion. The intention is not that the top scored submission is an automatic recommendation. The scoring gets the committee to a place where they have consensus of the top few and then discuss those and decide on what they want to recommend. I tell you this because I don't want you to feel the focus is on the scores, but rather it is on the art and what is the best fit for Helena and the location of the project. There is a lot of great public art in Helena, and artists range from all around. We very much appreciate the conversation you all had at the last meeting, and going forward, staff plans to implement additional points for local artists. We always want to promote our local artists while still having the flexibility to select the right art. So today I wanted to give you a chance to review the submissions one more time. This time though, I have highlighted for you the local artists. They're in yellow. As we discussed before, all submissions were juried blindly by the members of the Helena Public Art Committee. The 19 submissions were narrowed down to the top 7, and finally to the one that the committee recommended. That recommendation was number 18, Helena, Queen of the Rockies by artist Wyatt Hersey of Santa Cruz, California. Since then, staff took another look at the submissions, added equally weighted points for local artist submissions, which brought a local submission to the head of the pack. While, as I stated earlier, Points alone don't necessarily create a recommendation. Staff would like to make a recommendation for submission number 10, wildfire. We feel it is a great work of art that represents our area extremely well. Wildfire is designed by local Helena artist Elise Perpignano. Elise says of her submission, "If you lived in Montana for a while, our summers can be blanketed in wildfire smoke. Growing up here has exposed me to the beauty of nature and the harsh reality of wildfires. As an artist, I've turned this experience into inspiration to capture the beauty and complexity of the relationship between wildfire, humanity, and nature. This design is visually stunning and is an educational tool to teach us about the stages of wildfires in nature and the ecosystem in our backyard. It includes imagery from the Gates of the Mountains wilderness in Helena, Lewis and Clark National Forest, the Sleeping Giant, and the Missouri River. It also honors the 13 smoke jumpers who risked their lives to fight the Man Gulch fire 75 years ago. Chiara Cipriano, Public Affairs Officer for the U.S. Forest Service, submitted these words in support of this design. The tunnel immediately caught my eye because it connects Exploration Works, a partner in our commemorative efforts that plans to do a fire ecology program for children and their families next summer, and looks out onto the Helena, Lewis and Clark National Forest. The imagery Elise has chosen reflects the unique location of the tunnel, showcasing the Gates of the Mountains wilderness with its unique ties to the core of discovery, alongside the commemorative imagery of Montana's state plain and the smoke jumpers who died trying to protect that special place. Elise has done a phenomenal job working with us to come up with a design that captures a sense of place and draws out the unique history elements. Staff therefore recommends for the Lindale Town Reel to be submission number 10, Wildfire, by artist Elise Perpignano of Helena, Montana. So before you now, you have two great recommendations. When I informed the Public Art Committee after the last meeting that staff would be presenting a second recommendation today, Helena's Public Art Committee Chairperson, Amanda Reese, replied to me, quote, "There were so many great submissions. I'm sure that city staff and the commission will be able to pick a concept that everyone will be happy with." City staff couldn't agree more. It's now in your hands to decide which design you would like to move forward with, for a formal vote across the hall. As you discuss, please feel free to let me know if you have any questions or if you'd like to look back at any other designs. Thank you.
Comments or questions from the commission?
Mr. Mayor,
Go ahead, Commission.
for Ms. Johnson, so you're looking for direction from us today, is that accurate?
That is correct, yes. We would want this, because it's such a big project, to go to a formal vote in front of you guys, preferably next week, but, you know, take the time you need.
And one follow-up, if I may, please, only our choices are those two. Yeah, correct.
Commissioners, no, you have your choice of all of them. These are the recommendations from.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I believe, just a comment, I think the design that we do have, the designs we have before us, I think all of them are great. I think the two that you've proposed that have kind of risen to the top of the pack are both great, but with being the 75th anniversary of the Man Gulch fire, being a local artist, I think this would be my preference.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I appreciate very much that this has been more complicated than usual, and I appreciate the staff recommendation to supplement, for lack of a better word, the HPAC recommendation. And I think I was struck before, but now it's a bit more clear to me. I think the submissions are all very impressive and quite lovely, but in hearing the presentation today, the recommendation for number 10 is not just beautiful art, it's beautiful art specific to this location. And I think that That's significant for me. I think we, where possible, should support local artists. I think this is a great opportunity to do it, but I think it's the specificity of the art for this location speaks to me. So I would support the staff recommendation with all appreciation for the blind jury approach and the sort of, appreciation for art in general. And I do look forward to having a weighted consideration for local artists going forward. I think with our local funds in local venues, it's a great way to elevate some of our artists who don't have a wider venue. So thank you.
Go ahead, Commissioner Dean.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I with the 75th anniversary coming up and the many events that will be happening in August, I would be comfortable moving forward with the staff recommendation. I wish that I'm glad that we had the discussion we did. I wish we would have had it before HPAC looked at them, because I do think it, we want to be clear in our preference to the committees and providing a supplemental scoring for local artists. But, we've now had the discussion and we can implement that in future scoring. But I am comfortable moving forward with the Man Gulch mural.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, comfortable with number 10.
Okay. Do you have any public comments? Sir?
I'm sorry. I really appreciate your presentation, but you said something that confused me. You said one of the recommendations was somebody from Santa Cruz, California, and you said you wanted to highlight local artists, so that confused me a little bit.
Yes, sir. 2 weeks ago, we met on this same subject, and there was a recommendation for the number 18 from the Helena Public Art Committee. And that was a different artist from a different area. Does that answer your question?
Okay. Manager Johnston, do you have your clarification?
Yes, Mr. Mayor, I do. Thank you.
Citizens Conservation Board annual report to the commission. Oh, excuse me. No.
We have, prior to that, item C, the commission asked for an update on the dumpster art presentation of the agenda.
Yes, please continue. I apologize.
Thank you. The city put out a call for artists from December 20th to January 19th to solicit designs for dumpster murals. The Helena Public Art Committee viewed and scored anonymous submissions at their February meeting. I do apologize, this was before our last meeting. So again, it was no preference to local artists. After discussion, the committee came up with their top 4 picks with a 5th alternate. I do believe, based on the information, that 3 of these 5 designs were local artists. The designs are dumpsters in jet blue, trash, pandas. That's great. Frosty, flight. Wildflower flow. So those were the top 4. And then the alternate was titled Traditional Clouds.
Looking for directions on that?
Mr. Mayor, not at this time, no.
Okay.
The intent is to paint at least 4 dumpsters, all of which are located on city-owned properties. These include the City County Building, the Law and Justice Center, the Helena Civic Center, and the Chamber of Commerce Building. A fifth dumpster at either Grand Street Theater or Bill Roberts Golf Course will also be painted if the funding allows. This will all take place in the City County Building parking lot on May 4th. The City of Helena's Solid Waste Division will clean and deliver the dumpsters on Friday, and volunteers from the Helena Public Art Committee will prime the dumpsters. The artists will then paint on Saturday, possibly into Sunday. Then more volunteers from the Public Art Committee will seal the artwork on Sunday, after which the Solid Waste Division will deliver the newly painted dumpsters back to their homes. We invite all of you to join us for this fun event where we can promote public art.
Comments and questions for Manager Johnston? Please.
Thank you, sir. Brief comments. I love this. These are great. I look forward to seeing them.
Thank you.
Yes, go ahead, Commissioner Dean.
Thanks, Mr. Mayor. I'm wondering do we have a process of how we decide which one goes where, or do any of the folks that work or participate in those buildings get a say?
Commissioner Dean and commissioners, it has not been decided. We have a public art committee today at 5:30. And we wanted to basically try to align what the design is with the location, what's the best fit for that area. We did similarly with the traffic signal boxes.
Thank you.
Do you have any other comments from the commission? Do you have any public comments on this topic? Okay, thanks, Manager Johnson. Manager Burton? You're completed? You done?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Citizens Conservation Board Annual Report. Mark Judeman, you have the floor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Commissioners. I'm very happy to be here today with you. As many of you know, we've looked forward to a long time to having a discussion in person with you about sustainability issues. And so this is great. I'll wait for the PowerPoint. There we go. Moving to the next slide, basic overview. The resolution which reestablished the Citizen Conservation Board indicated that one of the obligations of this board is provide a report to the commission each year, which will include the state of current sustainability measures undertaken by the City of Helena and identify 3 to 5 specific sustainability measures for the City Commission to review and provide guidance to the City Manager on as priorities for the coming annum. We did not have an opportunity to do this last year, and so we're very happy to talk to you today. And I will say that there is so much to do that it is very difficult to get to 3 to 5 sustainability measures to recommend. I will also point out that we did have a much more extensive discussion prepared, but we're informed at a late date that we had to drastically modify the presentation in order to appear before you during the budget cycle. And I would say that this process was far from optimal, and I hope that next year things work out better. Here's the state of current sustainability measures undertaken by the City of Helena. We're just looking at 3 metrics. First, with clean electricity, as you are all aware, Resolution 2592 set forth the goal for the City of Helena to take the necessary steps within its control to power the community, not just the city facilities, with 100% clean renewable energy by 2030. Including an interim goal of 80% by 2025. Now, this presentation indicates that the electricity supply mix for the Montana customers from Northwestern is nearly 70% clean energy. I do not believe that to be true. 2022 portfolio from Northwestern Energy indicated 58% clean energy, and 2023 also indicated 58%. So in any case, we were very far away from meeting the interim goal of 80% by 2025, which is just next year. Under waste reduction, the goal is resolution 2643 called for the development of a strategic plan for waste reduction and set forth a solid waste diversion goal of 50% by 2040 with an interim goal of 35% by 2030. In 2022, according to the status, the strategic plan for waste reduction was completed and identified that the city's current diversion rate is approximately 26%. So it does seem like we're making good progress there. Under water conservation, the 2009 Climate Action Plan gave the city a goal to reduce gallons per capita per day demand from 175 in 2005 to 100 in 2025. Status statement is that the 2022 sustainability report transitioned the city to calculating gallons per capita for day use instead of demand based on residential meters to get a more accurate measurement of household water use. This showed that the average residential water use per person per day was 81 to 90 gallons. That seems like a really good progress. And I know the city has made a lot of progress on fixing leaks and so on, so that we're much more efficient. This still does not, however, capture water use by the larger users, such as the city itself, the state capitol complex, other businesses, and so on. So I think that there's probably still some work to do to see what our overall usage rate is. Anytime you have questions, please feel free to ask.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, Mr. Judeman. Just a question on the water conservation goal. Is there a plan to update that specific goal and metric with regard to water usage gallons per day per person? Because I see the recommendation is slightly adjacent to it. Is there a plan to update that number or not?
We have not currently developed a recommendation on that. I think that's worth considering during this coming year, and then perhaps we'll have a better statement next year.
Thank you.
Okay, now moving into our recommendations. We prioritize the following sustainability actions for fiscal year 2025: energy conservation and efficiency, green electricity, transportation, and water conservation. I do want to indicate our support and recognition of the work that the city has done by proceeding with the sustainability plan and audit. I think that is a necessary condition for addressing our clean energy goal. Again, because we're looking at community-wide, I don't think it's necessarily sufficient, but I think it's a very good step in the right direction. So under energy conservation and efficiency, our recommendations are amend resolution 2218, which established residential energy efficiency and renewable energy loan program to specifically include air source heat pumps and add language to prioritize applications from low income and disadvantaged households. So possible language is under section 2, loans to residential property owners may only be used to purchase and install energy efficiency upgrades and renewable energy systems, but not limited to solar photovoltaic systems, wind, geothermal, air source is a change, and ground source heating systems, gray water systems, and solar water heating systems. And the reason we'd like to make that change is that air source heat pumps have increased in efficiency tremendously. There are now cold climate systems that can efficiently heat down to minus 15 degrees. So I think that this should be an option that people can finance through this program. Under section 3, availability of loans is subject to availability of funds dedicated to this program by the City Commission. applications from households determined to be low income or disadvantaged shall receive priority on the funding list. Our feeling is that we need to have some better equity in how these funds are dispersed. I think that there are a lot of people that could really benefit from the cost savings associated with providing their energy through photovoltaics, for instance, or those energy efficiency improvements that we talked about. And so I think those are the folks that, or the committee, the board feels that those are the folks that should be prioritized for receiving those funds. Under green electricity, our recommendation is to continue to support the residential energy efficiency and renewable energy loan program established by Resolution 2218 with additional funds in fiscal year 2025. And again, I'd like to appreciate the board's appreciation of additional funds into that program from ARPA. I think that's great. There's a lot of demand for these funds, and especially again for solar PV, and that's much appreciated. And I hope that we can continue to fund this at a high level. Okay, under transportation, we have two recommendations. Recommendation one is to support mode shifts towards walking and biking by denying variance requests to not put sidewalks and boulevards in and continue funding for ADA compliant ramps on sidewalks. Recommendation two is to create a resolution to make vehicle replacement, and this is for the city fleet. I want to be specific about this. This is not a mandate for private owners, you know what I mean, with electric vehicles by default, unless justified otherwise based on usage patterns or availability restrictions. And then finally, under water conservation, we have a recommendation that we create a resolution adopting lush and lean landscaping practices for municipal properties to include drought-resistant native and xeriscaped planting strategies. This is actually a recommendation that came out of the 2009 Climate Action Plan, so it'd be nice to go ahead and implement that. Thank you for your time. Again, we really appreciate this opportunity. I do hope that we can have a conversation about these. In addition to this meeting, I'd be happy to talk individually with commissioners or the mayor at a sub-forum level. So, thank you.
Mr. Judeman, comments or questions for this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor, and for Mr. Judeman slash for the manager. Do you have model, for example, resolutions for some of these things? If we were interested as a commission in exploring some of them and moving them forward, do you have sample language that we could then work with the manager and the city attorney's office to consider?
Word does not. We could put that on our agenda to develop it.
Any other comments from the commission? Do we have any public comments on this topic?
Mr. Mayor and Commissioners, my name is Diana Hammer, and I am a former Conservation Board member. I'm no longer on. But I did send you an email earlier outlining some of my concerns about this particular presentation. We had prepared to present to the Commission in January and submitted on January 10th to the Clerk of the Commission the full board's report and our recommendations. And then we were bumped from that agenda, understandably, and I know it takes a while to be rescheduled. However, in the intervening 2 months, city staff edited the board's report, and the presentation you see here is pretty much the city's edited version. It took the board's report from January down from 18 slides with a lot of additional and what we felt was important content detailing 5 areas of recommendation. And you notice that the presentation today only included 4. So the city edited out, or in a sense censored, what the board wanted to convey to you. It also censored out some concerns and challenges we faced in terms of communicating between communications between the board and city staff over the last year and a half in particular. And that was edited out. So in essence, city staff deleted, altered, or added slides to the presentation. So 10 slides were deleted, or yes, going from 18 slides down to 8. So in the email, and I won't, it was kind of long, because I went into some specificity comparing the two reports for you, calling out specifically what was deleted, what was altered, and what was added. The area of recommendation that was completely deleted from this report by city staff, and I might mention, was presented to the board last Thursday with the message that this needs to be approved by, on the 14th, and with the message that it needed to be approved basically that day because it needed to be submitted by the 15th if the board were to present now. The alternative being the board may not have a chance to be on the agenda until June or maybe July. And for you to have the opportunity to consider these recommendations during the annual budget cycle, that would be kind of moot to present after you've already made the budget decisions. So I'm not a board member, but clearly the board opted to move forward and submit the presentation and present today. And as a former board member, we are thankful for this opportunity, and we're very grateful for the work you are doing and in support of resiliency and climate action in Helena. However, I find it really disconcerting that the commission, you had appointed members and are continuing to appoint members to the board to advise you on sustainability actions in the city. And the fact that the slide where there were it listed 3 sustainability goals and the status were completely rewritten. Those were not what the board wrote. That's what the city staff wrote. So if you want to report from city staff on sustainability actions, awesome. If you want to report from the advisory board set to advise you on sustainability, then please let us, I'm no longer on the board, but please let the board do that uncensored. Thank you.
Good, thanks. Any other comments from the community, public comments? Thank you, Mr. Juderman. Department of Defense. Oh, I apologize. Commissioner Dean, you have to.
Oh, no, it's okay. And I think I just want to make sure I did hear this clearly at the beginning. The Citizen Conservation Board did vote to bring forward this set of recommendations. Is that accurate?
That is accurate.
Okay, thanks.
Okay, sure. Any other comments or questions? Department reports, personnel policies. Dr. McMahon, you have the floor.
Thank you, commissioners and Mayor Collins. Before you today are several policy revisions and even new policies proposed for your consideration to pass at the next full commission meeting on Monday. I'll just briefly go through what the changes are to each of the respective policies, and primarily the policies in front of you clarified confusing or missing policy language. They bring policies into Montana and federal employment law compliance, provide flexibility to meet some departmental operations. And as you know, we're in the middle of implementation of a new ERP administrative software program where we'll have our modules implemented. And so it comports to the new cycles, payroll system, and human resources functionality. So we're trying to get ahead of that so we are informed as we're implementing functionalities and process so that the policies will comport with what we need to plan to make sure that we have the most functionality and most efficient process in that new ERP system. So going forward then, the first one in front of you, and I'll just go in chronological order to the policy manual. 3.2, policy 3.2 in our policies is on sick leave. This is basic. This is only to clarify current confusing language about how an employee will use or what leave they get to attend a funeral of a family member. Right now, the policy says 40 hours is granted to an employee for a funeral, where the reality is, and past practice has always been that employees need to use 40 hours of their own accrued earned sick leave. So this clarifies that, so there's not confusion on where those 40 hours come from in order to attend a family member's funeral. So again, that's their own accrued earned sick leave that they would use. The next one is scheduling hours of work. This one basically added the 2 bullets under breaks to clarify like break provisions for employees. And then also the work week is clarified now as Sunday midnight through Saturday 11:59. And again, that's to comport with the new timekeeping system. So we know when those pay periods are and define those for when people get paid. Holidays worked. This one basically clarifies the different roles between employees and how holiday pay works. So if you're an exempt employee, exempt from Fair Labor Standards Act overtime provisions, basically this clarifies that if you work a holiday, you get a commensurate day off, preferably within that pay period. It's just trading day per day. Where it got confusing and how we wanted to address this was to define when an employee voluntarily or requests to work on a holiday if they're non-exempt versus when they're required to work on a holiday. So this does not really change those provisions. It just clarifies if you're exempt, what happens on a holiday. If you're non-exempt, if you volunteer to work on a holiday, and if you're non-exempt and you need or required to work, for example, to plow the streets in the middle of, a storm. They have to go, they're required to go in and work. So this again clarifies those provisions more than anything. So it's less confusion for employees and for administering pay overtime and holiday pay. The next one is, I missed, did I miss overtime comp time? I went right over that one. These were or 2. So the overtime and comp time provisions, again, mostly to comport with our new system. This talked earlier or before about timesheets and deadlines for manually submitting timesheets. This now basically refers to a timekeeping system and extends the deadline for getting timekeeping records into payroll. So right now we have to submit physical paper timesheets before the end of the pay period. We have many employees who work over a weekend, Friday, Saturday, Sunday. So we then have to modify the time to get into payroll for the following week. It's a very manual, laborious process. So what this policy does, it now extends the deadline to get timekeeping into our new system after the end of the pay period. So we have till Monday to get timekeeping in, and then we can process payroll, hopefully much less manually for the next Friday. So this just comports again and streamlines and efficiency timekeeping system and the new administrative software program. So now we can go on to 4.4, time reporting and pay periods. Again, this is basically cleaning up language. You may remember about 2.5 years ago, the payroll function was transitioned up to finance to assure some internal controls between HR and payroll and finance. And so this reflects now that time reporting and time and pay periods are now administered through payroll, not human resources. So it just cleans that language up. And again, talks about, the timekeeping and those deadlines for the new pay system. So 4.5, hours of work. This basically more closely reflects and aligns language to the Fair Labor Standards Act on exempt employees. So it just, again, makes it more clear and more closely aligned to federal regulations. 4.6 we didn't have before. This is a new policy. There are very specific circumstances for which an exempt employee can have deductions in their pay. So this basically, this defines what those circumstances are when or if exempt employee can have a deduction in their pay. So again, this aligns with federal law and just clarifies in the event an exempt employee would have a pay deduction. And then popping out of the hours, section 4, and into performance evaluations in section 7 under employee development. This policy and these revisions, if you look at the evaluation process in about a third of the way down, evaluation process A, some new language was added at the very end of that paragraph, and it says, starting with the sentence, the evaluation period will change based on an employee's promotion, transfer, or demotion into a new position. So that's the same. And then we added or departmental needs such as changes in employee shift and supervisor. So there are certain departments that have certain cycles, and for example, they bid their shifts and they change their shifts every so often and supervisors every so often. So to have a performance review based on their anniversary date was disruptive to that supervision, that oversight, and the new shift. So we implemented some language here to provide more nimbleness and flexibility to meet those departmental needs and get more feedback and oversight more directly to operational needs. So the way we did that then is in evaluation process B, we require you to have a performance review at 6 months after your new hire, no matter which department you're in. We also require that you have a 1-year anniversary date probationary period performance review. So that didn't change. But then we added after 3, we read it. So we say annually every anniversary date after the first 12 months, or timetables as departmental policies and procedures dictate. So for example, when people are shift bidding and changing supervisors or changing shifts, we can be more flexible so those supervisors can provide those performance reviews on a more consistent basis. Just one other note on some of the policy changes in section 4. Most of these will be effective as soon as the commission approves them. Assuming you'll approve them on Monday at your regular meeting. Some of them, however, won't be effective until we actually go live with our new system, because we can't accommodate some of these now today in real time, but it gives us guidance for implementation so we know how to move forward in implementing some of these modules. So we'll make them effective actually when we go live with our new system, is when they're impacted by these policies.
So if I just wanted to let everybody know, Mayor Collins had to leave the meeting and asked if I would continue to run the rest of it. So is there any commission discussion or questions on Ms. McMahon's presentation?
Commissioner Logan, thank you very much. Thank you, Renee. When is the new ERP going to go live?
So the finance module is ready to go here in the next couple weeks, in the first part of April. So they're ready. They're crunch time right now, trying to get that live. The HR module will be, we're still working on when we're going to cut off the last payroll and start this. So either the end of June payroll or the first part of July payroll. And so we're still working those details out. That's our goal.
Thank you.
Commissioner Reed?
Mr. Logan, just briefly, and I think I know the answer. I just want to make sure I'm not misunderstanding. So there's a couple of 1, 2, 3, or 4. But I see something that says employees must receive evaluations at a minimum every 12 months. So none of the ORs change that in 7.1. At the end of evaluation process A, it says must receive evaluations at a minimum of every 12 months. So timetables notwithstanding, at least once a year, people will receive an evaluation.
Correct.
Cool.
That's correct.
Thank you.
Okay, further questions or discussion from the commission? I do have one question, if I may. So what was the vetting process for this? How did it get to us today?
Thank you, Commissioner. We started months ago with the payroll team and the HR team. Got our heads together primarily on section 4 in anticipation of the ERP system. And also the experience that we all have had, we're all pretty new to our roles in the confusion that it has presented to our staff and payroll. So we had several meetings going through these over and over to make sure they made sense and were clear, not only to our perspective in administering the policies, but also to the employees. So we had, I don't know how many meetings, but several meetings together as a team, payroll and HR together, including the finance director. And then we vetted them with the city attorney's office. So they had an opportunity to also provide feedback, and we met several times actually, to go through those revisions and suggestions. We back to the HR payroll team to make sure that we all understood what occurred with the HR city attorney's offices. And then one last pass through MMIA and their personnel consultant. We made a couple suggestions, great suggestions. So again, went through back to the city attorney, back to our team. So it's been a several month process, and they have been very thoroughly vetted.
Thank you. Mr. Burton.
There, I think you also presented this at leadership team.
Yes. Forgot about that. Thank you. I did do the presentation and got these in front of the directors and department heads for feedback. And at the leadership table.
Madam Clerk, anything from Commissioner Dean, or is she good?
I'm good.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'd offer public comment on the personnel policy recommendations that we just heard. If there is any public comment. Madam Clerk.
Commissioner Love and I have no further comment.
Okay, thank you. Anything else?
No.
Okay. So we've got that part of our agenda where we take public comment for anything that's not on the agenda.
All right. My name is Ben Tintinger, Mosaic Architecture, Principal of Mosaic Architecture, and also the project architect for the Twin Creek apartments that I know you all have looked at a few times and aspects of it. I'm here today to actually request that you re-look at or assess the sidewalk variance that was presented last week. Unfortunately, we didn't get notified. So engineering, when they brought that up, forgot to notify the owner and us. So we didn't have a chance to present our argument or our comments on why that variance is needed. And we do have some very good reasons for doing that. I think we're all in favor of having sidewalks and boulevards, but in this particular instance, we have some reasons that we would like to present. So as I understand the process, we have to request from you to revisit it. That has come up at a commission meeting that you vote on revisiting it. And then it comes up at another commission meeting to review that variance application again. Now, at that meeting, which was last week, both the owner representative, Tyson O'Connell, and Seth O'Connell were at the meeting, but they were caught off guard. They didn't realize this was coming up, and they also didn't have the information in front of them. As designers, we we understand the limitations on what we have with the site and how to make all these slopes work and everything. So they didn't have that in front of them. Tyson actually had his hand up during the public comment part of it. And he didn't get called on until it was already passed and gone on to the funding part of that. So what I would hope could happen is that you would revisit this, give us a chance to just make our quick arguments. I don't think it would take longer than 10 minutes. We're kind of under a tight timeline to get this thing approved and get it out to bid and get it under construction. I would like to see if it would be possible to not only have that vote to revisit on the same night as giving us a chance to make that argument for the variance. So that's what I'm here for.
Thank you,
Any
Mr.
questions?
Stenzinger. Mr. Burton, could you possibly look into that and make a recommendation or report? Do that to us.
Yes, Commissioner Wu.
Thank you. Any other public comment for items not on this agenda? Yes, sir.
Yes, after the big October snow event, several days after, I was walking on Prospect on the sidewalk near the Capitol Hill development, north side of the street as I was going westward. The sidewalk had not been plowed or shoveled. And there was actually somebody in a motorized wheelchair who was traveling against traffic in the traffic lane because he couldn't use that sidewalk. And it was a very dangerous situation. There were cars swerving all over the place. And it was a surprise to me that that person actually survived the experience. So I called the city to see about enforcing sidewalk snow removal ordinances and was told that because that is a state right-of-way, they had nothing to do with that. And they gave me a phone number of somebody at the state to contact. So I contacted that person. I was kind of dubious about that. And that person indeed told me that, yes, it may be a state right-of-way, but the city ordinances have precedence in those areas. And so those should be enforced. And several times I have sent in through the app requests for snow clearing on some of these streets, especially along Prospect, which seems to be a real issue, without seeming any enforcement resulting. So I think that that is something that needs to be addressed. It seems to me that the city is exposing itself to some liability if, for instance, somebody in a motorized wheelchair was killed by a car because they couldn't use the sidewalk that hadn't been cleared due to lack of enforcement activity. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Judeman. Is there any other public comments?
Commissioner Dean has a-
Okay. Mr. Dean?
Thanks. Just really briefly, I would I appreciate the public comment. It would be great if maybe we could use this as an example to go back to MDT. I know that it's convenient that they told you that because from what I understand, we can't get them to, force the issue in terms of requiring boulevards on state right-of-ways. And that is something I would love to be able to see if they would actually start following city ordinance. So maybe there is an opportunity. I think Director Kanopi is on Zoom, but maybe an opportunity in the future to go back to MDT and utilize this as an example of somewhere where there appears to be inconsistencies. Because if we could get them to start following some of our local norms, that would be ideal.
Further public comment for any items not on the agenda? Madam Clerk?
Commissioner Logan, I have no public comment online.
Anything further from the discussion or from the commission, excuse me? Mr. Manager.
Good. No further comments, Commissioner.
Any direction that you need for today's purposes?
There, I believe I have the direction that
All right. Well, in that case, this meeting is adjourned.